Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Monday edition. My apologies for, we got to fix that video screen there. My apologies for Friday's session, just because, well, my internet went out. I was doing a session. Some of you may have been in on that one. I was doing a session for Trading Academy and really had a great session with Bill Addis, Larry Jacobson. And for some reason, in the middle of it, my internet just dropped. Southern California Edison, sent me text messages saying that something was wrong, but nothing I could do about that bad boy, unfortunately. So we'll make up for it today. I was actually going to have Don Fraun on the program on Friday, but today we'll make up for that because it is Monday, and we have more to talk about today. So let's go and bring on our guest. The topic for today is the market crash over? Of course, you guys know my guest. I've had Don Fraun on the program many times in the past. He's got his own channel over there on YouTube. I'd encourage you to check that one out. So with that said, Don, how you doing, my friend? How you been?
I've been here. I've been busy, and watching this market is never a dull moment.
No, I guess, the more that we do this, the more exciting it becomes, the more interesting it becomes. And I've been doing it long enough where really nothing surprises me. Now, the only thing that kind of surprised me was that move on Wednesday where we had that, 10% up move or 12% up move in the NASDAQ. That was just absolutely just a one-off type of event. Other than that, look, volatility is just where we live. It's just part of the game, and we just got to deal with it.
Yeah, it was inside 1 week, inside one trading session. I guess all the trading sessions inside 1 week. You know how to word it. We dropped just in the S&P 14%, and then came back 10%. Like, and this was shouted out in my. I was already having this conversation with my group, and they're like, sometimes it can take all year to make that move down. Like, that was 3/4 of a crash.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to get it over. Talk about a rip the Band-Aid off moment.
Yeah. And it's funny because one moment you have people freaking out and saying, this is the apocalypse, we're all going to burn in hell. And then all of a sudden you have the other side of it. It's like, oh, well, we're all back. No tariffs. This is all roses from here on out, which I guess is kind of where it leads us today with our discussion is this market crash over? So I guess start off with a kind of a bigger perspective, because I know you have all kinds of macro and micro details on what you think is going to happen. But high level, where do you think we are right now, and kind of what's the tone from your perspective in the market?
I think the fear's done. I think we got the fear over with. Whether the crash is done or we do put in a lower low, I don't think the lower low is not going to come anytime soon. I don't think. I think we priced in with that just move down. We priced in all the tariffs, all the retaliatory tariffs, possibly a recession, and the way we just came roaring right back, just in that one green move, told me it's like the shorts were just hanging on by a thread, and they couldn't wait to just lock it in and get out. So this means something. If you know this, if you understand options, when I say the fear is done with, we could still grind down, but the VIX comes down. The volatility of how fast we move up and down, I think, is going to significantly die off. I think we're back to the grind now. But what's really concerning, the part I haven't quite put my finger on yet, is how viral this, like, we'll call it fake news, goes.
Mm-hmm.
The tariff exemptions, and then 2 days later, like, oh, that was fake. Like, here comes this, no tariff here. Turns out that was fake. And it's like a tweet comes out, and you just see you see the market move off a tweet, and we find out it's fake.
Yeah.
And usually, I don't think we get that kind of reaction off of just a fake tweet. Everyone was just like waiting for a direction, and the second, like, they didn't fact check anything. The second something came out, they're like, I'm on it, let's go. Long or short, they would just full bore just send it one direction.
And I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. I know you think that the volatility is going to drop, but we have this market that goes back to what we had in Trump's first term, which was this shock and awe kind of information where you issue a piece of news and all of a sudden it's just so dramatic that everyone's like, oh my God, we're going to crash. And then 3 days later, it's all resolved and everything's roses from here on out. That kind of, we'll just say swing trade volatility. Because I think long-term volatility, I believe you're right, we'll just kind of see it slowly drift, but not anything overly dramatic. But the shorter term stuff, over the course of a week like we witnessed last week, much more increase because of tweet driven. So how do you position yourself for that? Because I know you're a swing trader, right? Are you predominantly swing still?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you
Yeah.
do that? Because last week, by the time you got to Wednesday, you're like, I am hemorrhaging here. I'm dying. And then you get to Friday, you're like, we're good. 5% week. Love it.
Uh, Luckily, directionally, I was actually right most of the time. But when the vault now I was not now we went three standard deviations
Yeah.
the week prior, right? So 1% chance of that actually happening. But by the time that actually did happen, but like we're headed that direction, I was actually already in what I was in, like, and I'd already said, luckily that happened on a Sunday. And when I started talking about the crash last year, I said 485 was my target for SPY. And we hit that Sunday night, in the overnight market. And so I was already a buyer. So I was already good there. So luckily I was able to just um, sell some puts. And I specifically said I'm not selling calls this week because the green candle on a snap up will rival the red one.
Mm-hmm.
And did that pan out more than ever because that green candle erased the last 3 days of us just melting down. So it panned out that I wasn't in any sold calls at the time. I wasn't, hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have bought more stuff.
Yep.
I had sold puts with the mindset of whatever I sell, I'm getting assigned. I'm gonna have it. When the market's down 20%, if I can't look out the window and see a mushroom cloud
Yeah.
or nukes, I don't care. I'm buying. Yeah, it might be a 30% crash, and we had that conversation, but if it was, I was going to ride that out, and hopefully make the comeback because the crashes are when you make the most money. That's,
Sure.
it goes back to this is the one time people should be quoting Warren Buffett is, greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Like this is it. Nobody wants to buy when the market's down. Everybody just feeds into the panic. Last year, SPY was what, 620? And I said 485 on SPY. People said I was crazy. And they said all the comments, oh, I'll back the truck up. Oh, I'll do this and
Mm-hmm.
that. And here it is,
Yeah.
SPY 485. And they're like, it's going to go lower. It's
Yeah.
going to go to zero. Like it just drives it more. And then no one does anything.
Yeah, we had that 490 mapped out on SPY as well. And again, I'm just curious, why was your logic behind the 485?
That was a 20% move down.
There you go. Yep, same reason.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just time for a crash. People call us tinfoil hat theory, but I am 4 for 4 as far as crashes go
Yeah.
now. And I was a little nervous at first because I was like, man, if we bounce here and we don't get that crash, then I'm going to be wrong. And that's going to be annoying.
Yeah.
But
But when you're
don't
down that much, I mean, you've been around enough to see significant market moves, as I have, and if you look from just a pure probability perspective, the S&P, I'm just looking at SPY on the screen here, in a period of 33 trading sessions, so just a little over a month, down 21%. That's an abnormal move. You don't usually see that extent of sell-off, and then of course the increased volatility we saw because of all the reciprocal tariff garbage, that does really open the door to great potential buying opportunities. And we were talking about it here on this show as well, which was, that 20% mark is such a psychological level that most likely you're going to see a bounce. And we never got to close below 20% on the S&P down, right? We breached it,
Right.
but we never closed below it, and we've been ripping ever since. Going forward, if you look at the trend here on the SPY, certainly making lower lows, certainly making lower highs. What's your hypothesis of where we go from here?
I'll actually answer this and Margaret's question at the same time. Is
Perfect.
Does Don hedge? And yeah, I actually had 560 SPY puts. And honestly, what I had done this time that I haven't done the other times was I actually bought the 560 SPY puts well in advance, right? So we're headed south. That's already up. I started selling 2 days or next day expiration SPY puts against it, just taking advantage of theta. Like
Yeah.
the next day would be the 20 deltas. Or there was one time I thought we were really going to bounce, so I sold straight at the money put. Next day we went soaring. So I was killing it from every direction just on that particular hedge. And that SPY put was the hedge because I wasn't selling it. Ultimately, deltas I was long. But to answer your question now is I think I'm done with the SPY puts. We might get another surprise move down. Like what you said, Trump would come out and say something, and it was like a car salesman tactic where
Yep.
they come out, send you to the ceiling, and then they just peel you off, kind of bring you back down. But a 50% tariff sounds wild until you come out the door. You just come out of the gate with 100% tariff, and then say, okay, we'll settle with 50. So I think we'll probably keep that volatility. Uh, Hopefully the fake news parts, the part I was talking about with fake news is people are like putting words in Trump's mouth, and then Trump comes out and says,
Yeah.
that's fake. It's like they didn't want it to go down any further. Like they're just like, please don't send this down any further.
Yeah.
So going forward, I do want to sell a lot of puts before the crash. Actually, it's something I don't do is touch my investment portfolio, but I did sell 30% in quite a bit. The top three were Nvidia, Tesla, and Meta. So I'm selling puts to get all that back. So I just essentially skipped all the red on that. I not at a stage where I want to just flat out buy yet. I want to sell puts. At least until I see that I'm right. Once the volatility I see does die down, because the VIX, although it's pulled back, still very much up. And I look at the VIX like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. So it's cool that it's back. I have VIX puts expiring this week too, so hopefully it just melts off.
Yep.
But until it's all the way back, I want to just sell puts. If I get assigned, so what? I'm not gonna not assign. Like I'm not gonna take a loss there. I'm gonna take the shares because I feel like the bulk of the red is probably already here. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I again, time will tell. I saw we posted this on Twitter, and some guys, the market crash is over. It's like, well, not necessarily. I mean, we all have our ideas of what we think is going to happen, and I guess the reality is we just have to put our money where our mouth is. So it sounds like from your perspective, you think volatility will be much lower. We're not going to see these massive swings like we did. To what extent are you looking at the tariffs themselves? For example, this weekend was absolutely fantastic watching all these Chinese manufacturers of luxury goods going, hey, Americans, you're the problem. You guys are buying $28,000 handbags. And by the way, ladies, I hate to sound condescending and offensive, but if you're spending $28,000 on a handbag, you're a freaking idiot. You're a moron. Sorry. It's a bag. It carries stuff. Sorry. I don't get handbags, man. It's an addiction that ladies have. I'll go to Stater Brothers and pay 10 cents for a little trash bag and carry my stuff on that one. But anyway.
I would have zero problems having a fake bag. If I was a woman, zero issues with it.
So one of the funny videos I saw was this guy was like, this bag, I don't know, a Beniti or something like that. It was like a $28,000 bag. He ran through every component that they used to make the handbag. And he goes, it costs us $1,000 to make it. He goes, you can buy that directly from us. The only difference, and it's not the materials, it's not the stitching. The only difference is this bag that we sell you for $1,000 doesn't have that logo. Well, great. Buy that thing if you really want to spend that much on a handbag. It's absolutely wild to me.
Yeah, that logo is everything. You can't say look at me if it doesn't have that logo.
But who cares? I don't know. Maybe my parents conditioned me differently. I'm not a materialistic person. The idea of a $4,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 handbag is idiotic. I'll take $10,000, put it in an investment account, or travel around the world and die with an experience versus a material thing.
I'm willing to bet if they have a $28,000 purse, they haven't seen a single stock chart with candles on it. They might have turned the news on and saw a little shaded graph on the bottom area. That's the extent of their stock knowledge.
Yeah. Well, when we look at that, clearly that's going to have an impact on markets going forward, because there are a lot of people like myself that would look at that and go, hey, if it costs them $10 to make this pair of shoes that I spend on Nike $130, well, maybe I'll just buy them from China without that logo, because I don't care as long as the shoe fits good. How do you see that impacting things over, let's just do the remainder of the year? I mean, I know it's a long time, but do you see that chipping it away at performance of things like Nike or any really clothing manufacturer like Gap or Louis Vuitton?
Can I really buy the Nikes without a logo? Like, what's the avenue for that?
You probably can. I would imagine probably at those factories, probably not. But like, I've been to Thailand and I will buy, well, this is sad, but you can buy Diesel jeans. They're exact copy knockoffs. They just missed the hologram that's on the tag, and that's it. They're exactly the same thing for $10.
Huh.
It even says Diesel jeans on it.
Yeah, but the masses can't really do that. So
I don't know. What I was witnessing over the weekend was a lot of these manufacturers saying, "Buy directly from us. We'll sell right to you." And I'm sure if it's Nike, they would take the Nike off. But do you see that impacting, the price charts of things like Nike? We were talking about it last week on how Nike could potentially face serious ramifications if this reciprocal tariff thing keeps hitting Vietnam and China, where they get a lot of their shoes made. I've got it mapped out here in that short window of time of just 27 days. Nike dropped 35%. And that's still coming off of its peak that it had back in, 2022, 2021? From its peak, you're down on Nike roughly 70%. I mean, this is one of the biggest shoe manufacturers in the world, shoe companies in the world, sponsoring everything, Do you think longer term there's more of an impact, more downside, or is this from your perspective, hey, you know what? The biggest stuff's behind us. This could be a great buying opportunity.
The money they would probably put in to make sure you don't see that ad, I think would probably negate anything. I think if that were to catch fire, and really take off, because legally I don't know if they can stop me from doing anything. The only thing I can't do is put a Nike logo on there.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think that's going to be as big because there's a lot of people that don't know anything about the stock market or Bitcoin. They just know of it through word of mouth, and I doubt that would take off that fast, because Americans do like the logos. But I will say, as far as tariffs go, I don't think this quarter is going to tell us much,
Right?
Because a lot of people, even I've noticed this, if you went out shopping past few weeks before the tariffs, it was nuts. And talking to people that work at stores, it's more than Black Friday. There was someone who says his friend is a manager of Apple, and they did more than Black Friday sales multiple days as people were trying to get in ahead of the tariffs. So I'm worried about this quarter and next quarter. This quarter, hopefully, I'm glad there will be some kind of guidance. Hopefully, at least, or like even if they don't give guidance, that's gonna give me the heads up, because they're gonna come out and say we had banging numbers. We know exactly why.
Yeah,
we had banging numbers, but we're not gonna give guidance. Okay, now we know exactly why, because you sold everything ahead of time. And so what I'm looking for is this quarter. Let's see what they do. Let's see how prepared they are for tariffs. And as the tariffs begin to unfold, unravel, or we come to deals that aren't as bad,
right?
Because right now, if you're a company, you have to prepare for probably worst case scenario, or you're gonna get caught with your pants down.
Totally.
Speaking of someone talking to somebody with that does car warranties. For new cars, they have to go back to the drawing board, change all their prices, because as they come back in to get services, their parts serviced, they're all going to have a tariff now. So everything goes up. So you have to prepare for that. But if we were to come with a deal over this next quarter, then the following quarter, it just might look like a lot of people are sandbagging. But I think we need to. This is the one thing where everyone can put their guess that we can all throw those darts, but time will ultimately tell on this one, as far as how bad it gets. If we start to get deals, I think, of course, they'll have a green day in the markets, but that's when I'm buying for sure, because then I'll plan ahead for the following quarter of we actually did well. The tariffs weren't as scary as we thought. Customers still came through our doors, and we're good.
We've got a couple different, variables here. Number one is the wild uncertainty of just having no clue at what the end game is with tariffs, right? I don't know whether it's going to be 10% for China, 1,000%, pinky to the lips, 1,000,000%. I have no clue. And I think that's part of this fear factor we're seeing right now of market declines. As time goes on, and I agree with you, I think right now this is not going to reflect on earnings. I don't really see this happening, filtering through to the bottom line. But you get into Q2, Q3, and then the fourth quarter, then we'll really start to see the impacts of it. And two things I think are going to happen. Number one is we'll get a clear indication from the financials as to what the impact was. But more importantly, I think that this gives, and let me know what you think, I think this gives the companies the opportunity to lower their forecast to such a low level that the bar to hurdle over is just like, come on, man, anyone could get above that bar. So when they finally do come back, they're like ripping through earnings and stock price goes through the roof.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we do come up with the deal and it's not 1,000% on tariffs, that's what I would anticipate, because the bar would just be on the floor. The only thing you need to do to beat that is take the next step forward and just not be out of business by the next quarter. At that point, I think you would look great as a company.
When we look at, there's obviously different impacts from different companies. And right now, I think the topic that I focus on the most, looking at the investment opportunities, is the impacts from these tariffs. And there's one I wanted to kind of dive into that I know is one of your personal favorites, and I think it's probably one of the greatest companies out there. I think over the next decade, it's going to be one of the highest priced securities ever. Tesla. I know you're a big bull on Tesla. That thing has been murdered. You look price-wise. And, of course, there's a lot of hate against Elon Musk. Whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't matter to me. But it certainly is having a big impact on the price. If you go from peak to trough, Tesla was down more than these markets by a wide margin, 55%, right, to which I thought was a pretty good buying opportunity. Curious your take on Tesla and maybe its price trajectory going forward, since I know you're a fan.
Yeah, well, and I'll take this with any stock. If the S&P itself is down 20%, what do you think your stock is at? And then you add the volatility of something like Tesla in there. 50% is a great time, yeah, I think. Yeah, the fact that it only went down 50% was, I don't want to say bullish, but I thought that held up pretty well, considering some of the pullbacks in the past didn't stand up so well. Big Eb says 8 days until Tesla's earnings. Tesla's earnings are never a mover. It's the delivery numbers that are the big mover.
And that could be pretty impacted here. I think because of the Musk's involvement with Trump and the administration, you have all of a sudden this crazy backlash and, terrorizing the dealerships and burning factories and cars. Like, come on, people, that's just ridiculous. But you own a Tesla, right?
No, they canceled my order.
What?
Well, I ordered the Model S Plaid with the extended battery. And then Elon came out and said no one needs that.
But I do.
Yeah, I was like, no, I do. Yeah, I 100% do that. I was so upset after that, and then the Roadsters has just never come out.
Never come out. Yeah, I mean, if you got a rocket, you'll get that one that's floating around in space somewhere. I think it's going to Mars, isn't it?
I thought it was in our orbit.
I think he launched it to go to Mars. I don't know. Crazy
funny,
dude.
My kids are trying to talk me into a Cybertruck. I'm trying to stall as long as I can on that, so they can hopefully get bugs worked out. And that's just any new vehicle. Totally. That's not Tesla.
So do you think the impact from this backlash is going to have a more pronounced effect, or is 50% decline kind of like you're thinking this is the bottom on it?
Well, I did just get assigned puts. Okay. I sold the 250 puts on it, and got assigned the shares on it. So, in fact, it was great. I'd sold the 220s a couple times, 100%, moved up to 250. First or second time is when it finally got assigned, and then switched to selling calls. Absolutely send it. I think, and I don't care what anyone's opinion is on Elon, you have to be blind or intentionally not looking to see what's going on at Tesla and automation. Because now the cars at the end of the line are driving themselves out to park.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So every step of that, it's like people just are like, Like they're saying Elon said this was going to happen 2 years ago, so like they're upset it's just now happening, but it's happening, and they're completely ignoring that.
Yeah.
And there's competition with Optimus, and that's the one thing that I think it makes me so bullish, because every time Elon has ever had a competitor, he dwells on it, and he makes sure he stays ahead. And honestly, I don't think Optimus would be on track to where it's at if it wasn't for companies like Figure, making the robots for BMW and stuff like that. That had to have light a fire in there.
Yeah.
So I think, well, we got June. They're coming out with the self-driving taxis. I think we're gonna get that first shock and awe, but then people are gonna get used to it. Next thing you know, that will be on their balance sheet of here's how much we made off of just our cars out there driving around with no one else. Here's how much we don't have to pay employees anymore because we have more Optimists now than ever. At this point, I'm more worried about missing the boat than I am missing any red days.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think I'm definitely with you. So let's go. This question from Who Dat. He says, ultimately, it's just a car company. I don't think I could disagree more with that statement, but I'd like to let you tackle that one, because I know you have a lot of thoughts on what Tesla is, what the company represents, kind of where they're going product-wise. Would you agree with the statement that it's just a car company?
He has to be trolling me. He's in my group, and
Oh, he's from your group.
there's no way he believes that.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I don't think anybody here believes that. Who dat did it,
Yeah,
LOL. So okay,
no,
he is with you.
he's
Thank
probably
you.
looking for my reaction because I'll lose it on people. Like they genuinely believe that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Shut up.
We've had a few people like that on this program as well. It's funny because one of them, he just disconnected from the show. Maybe it's because I gave him too much grief on the fact that Tesla is not just a car company. It's way more than that.
Yeah. Well, I will say right this for the people that think it's just a car company, the only thing that stands factual on that is when analysts are determining their price target. All they can do is price in the numbers that are on the clipboard. Everything else that we have as retail investors, we're investing in the pipeline of things to come. You just can't go to your manager and say, "Here's why we need this under management," because one day they're going to have this or that. One day Optimus is going to be here. They can't price it in. They have to say like, here's what they're making, here's what we project. So the fact that right now I do think it's currently priced as a automotive car, as a car company.
Yeah,
Sorry, struggling with words there.
it's all right. Senior
Outside of
moment,
the
it happens, but it
yeah,
happens.
outside of the retail people that are in it, I think a lot of people are gonna have to adjust their price targets based on that. Once they have that first earnings announcement where they're talking about the revenue that they made from anything autonomy wise,
Yeah.
then I think everything changes. Then I think there's price increases across the board.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm excited for it, because I think people do believe it's a car company. I guess someone who's more of a neophyte and just, oh, I see the car. I mean, they got more driving data than any car company on the planet. And as soon as they do the robotaxi, I think it's just a whole nother just colossal revenue stream that's going to come pouring in there. So I'm excited for it. And I'm looking at it right now. I did not sell any puts on it, but I was selling puts at that 220 mark. I had some 180s back last year. And now it's just kind of traversing sideways. And I've been holding off. I've told my viewers a bit, like I'm just a little nervous that the backlash from the public is going to cause their next earnings numbers to be lower. So I'm going to wait till after earnings. I hope we get a nice fall on earnings, their delivery numbers tank, and all of a sudden I find it down at this 180. I got it in red here on my screen. That's the number I'd like to buy in at, 180 on that screen. If that happens, yeah, I'll be backing the truck up and I'll be joining you on your long party.
That was my original. Was anything sub 200, I'm going in. 180, I'm buying it. So I have these called rain or shine events. Like I'm buying it no matter what.
Yeah.
We got to 220, and I'd sold an at the money put because I was like, well, that'll bring my average cost down. That by the time I get assigned, I already own it under $200. But look at what the market is. So if you can pull up the market on top of that, look what the S&P did in that huge volatility spike down. And look how Tesla compared. I wonder if I can.
I have SPY on top of Tesla, if that's what you're asking for. Is that what you're looking
Yeah,
for?
I was looking for the.
Yeah, you can share if you want.
I was trying to on mine. Mine's not pulling the line up. Where's that giant spike down on the S&P?
That's April 2nd to April 2nd to 4th. Is that the one? The most recent one?
Yeah.
Yeah, April 2nd to 4th.
So Tesla didn't do anything. No new lows, no nothing.
Yeah, right. Not new lows. So it really feels like we're channeling right now. So for you spread guys, but for me, I'm more of just a put seller and collect premium and sell calls against it. That's kind of just my basic simple neophyte strategy. But the way that it's been bouncing right now, not breaking down below. Let's get that S&P off this chart real quick. Not getting below that 214 is kind of your low point there that we achieved back on April 7th. Great, it's at least it feels like it's stabilized. I'm just a little nervous for earnings, so I guess I'm being overly cautious by waiting until after that announcement. For those that don't know, earnings is going to be on the 22nd of April, so coming up here in just a couple days.
We already know it's going to be a miss because we already have deliveries. They can figure everything out off of that.
Yeah.
Except for energy tripled a couple quarters ago. I got real bullish when I saw that because no one's talking about energy. But bring it back real quick. If you look at that spike down, yeah, Tesla didn't make a new low, but look at what that spike actually was in the market. If the S&P is just an indicator, that was max. If I'm right, that could have been max fear. The VIX was up. We're in a landslide down. Some are calling it capitulation. And then you take all of that and Tesla, the number one options traded ticker out there, doesn't even breach a new low. It just
Yeah.
has a normal red. Like you would
Right.
never even know the S&P had that kind of spike if you were just looking at Tesla.
Yeah.
Go pick out the Rona crash on any chart, and you can tell you without having the date at the bottom, you know exactly when 2020 was.
Hmm.
But you can't do that on Tesla this time, which tells me somebody's picking it up there close to that $200.
Yeah.
Someone's holding that line. I mean, there really is a line in the sand
It
right
feels like
there
you
at
can see it. I mean, it's
22. Yeah.
and for those that are watching, yeah, sorry, I didn't. I thought I was saying it, but that line you see, the solid line on your screen is the SPY, and then the candlestick is Tesla on that one. Just and what Don's pointing out is I'll put a horizontal line on the S&P chart right here, and you can see that when we broke, we were bouncing, and then it fell aggressively. Tesla, yeah, it did fall, but it didn't make a new low. It stayed right at those lows that were from March 11th, which is a great sign of strength, especially when the market's like pulling that Macaulay Culkin face of just panic. It was like, okay, yeah, we're selling off, but we're stopping at that 220 mark, and to me, that's a pretty positive sign for the market going forward here, which is kind of why I asked. But again, my viewers will get the update when I make the trade, but I'm probably going to wait till after that earnings announcement, just because I'm chicken.
Earnings might send it down a little bit, but
Which is perfect. I'd rather sell after that earnings announcement, right, and get myself an extra 5-10% worth of premium for the week. Perfect. Let's do it.
yeah, sell the earnings put down.
Nah, I'll wait till it drops to 180 or 170 and
We
sell
already
the.
had delivery numbers. You're gonna miss the 180 mark.
We'll
It's not
see.
happening.
We'll see. It might happen.
Remember that time I told you about Meta?
Well, no, tell me about Meta. Go for it. Yeah, you always talk about Meta.
I feel like if man, maybe you get sub 200. Uh,
I mean,
one
look,
one
we don't know. I mean, it's all hypothesis. I do think the 220 mark will probably hold, and if I miss it, that's okay. But I don't. What I don't want to have happen is all of a sudden an outlier comes along, and all of a sudden they go, we've seen a 30% net sales and consumption or demand for our vehicles. We're lowering our target by X, and it's like, and then you get the big downgrade, which is exactly what I want. I want the big downgrade where Goldman and Fidelity come out there and say, "Oh, well, we're lowering our price target from 300 down to 180," and you're like, "Oh, thank you," and I'll pick it up at 180.
Yeah, it's I love selling puts on red days and selling calls on green days. And I get this question a lot because there's just a lot of times where I'm like, man, I'm just doing it now anyway because that day might not come. And
Yeah,
overall, the averages, I'll end
sure,
up making the same, if not more, just by being in it. It's just great when those days happen.
100%.
Uh, but yeah, like I said, I don't want to talk anybody into a position, or I'm just giving you crap. But with autonomy creeping up around the corner, the way AI's really actually taken off, like there was like the big LLM day, like that was the iPhone moment for them.
Yep.
But now that they're fine tuning those, agents are coming out. There's a new one that has agent to agent talking. So like it will talk to the other agents, have them go do all the work, and then report back. Like that's there was another article that came out. It kind of tells me that things are here. Things are gonna start wrapping up. Um, Shopify. Shopify will not hire somebody unless you can prove that AI can't do it.
Wow.
That's their new rule. And I was like, so we're not even shy about it. We're just kicking this off right now. Like we're not
Jeez.
hiring you.
That's a pretty bold statement there. And I know you've been talking about AI, as have I. I'm not worried about the next year. I'm worried about the next 3 to 5 years. Like, what's the job displacement look like? And if companies are already saying, "Hey, listen, we can replace you," that's scary. That is really scary.
Yeah. Well, the scary part is actually that the robots aren't taking over overnight. Because at least if that were to happen that fast, there's a reaction to it.
Yeah,
The fact that they don't want the bad PR and just to fire everybody, I do think all they do is quit hiring and let people just work themselves out. And they never got the kickback companies are going to start getting. Like when they started putting all the traffic cones on the hood of the Waymo cars when they were self-driving, because then it would pick that up and it would just park and cause traffic. I found absolutely hilarious.
that's pretty
But
funny.
the fact that if they do that, think of how long it will take AI to actually take over, to be a big enough problem for there to be an intervention. So the people that get laid off, quit their job, they get fired for whatever reason and just can't get another job. Think how long they'll be in the dark just waiting. I've hit my mic a couple of times. Hopefully that's not super
You're
loud.
good. You're good.
Um, But yeah, I feel like that would be forever. Yeah, and Big Ed says natural attrition. Yeah, and then just imagine the AC goes out in the building. What's the rush?
Yeah.
Like what do you care as the CEO? Like, yeah, we'll get it fixed
Yeah.
in August,
We
at
don't we
the
don't
end of
need it. I
August.
mean, I'll just make sure that the bots that I have are, that there's an overheat point. If the overheat point is 300 degrees, well then I'm not using AC ever
Yeah.
again.
Well, have you been following the dark factories in China?
No.
Oh, so they don't have lights because there's
Oh,
the robots don't need them.
that's
So
crazy.
there was a reporter that wanted to go see it and show it off, and they said there's nothing to see. You can't see anything. There's no lights. And I was like, that's something I never even thought of. Is like you get to save that bill too. Not only are you not
Yeah.
paying employees, the electric bill, like
And it's not
that.
it's funny because nowadays electricity for LEDs is so cheap compared to traditional like metal halides or high pressure sodium light bulbs. But yeah, I mean every penny you can save is a penny earned.
Yeah, we know that. Like I'm noticing this water bottles. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but water bottles. I used to go to the gas station and get a bottle of water. The bottles are so thin now. Like when you grip it just for its
Yeah.
own weight, you're like crumbling that thing. I'm like, you guys really had to skimp out on this.
Don, you're shattering my ego as we speak. I thought it was my grip strength as I was getting older was just so it increased so much as my ability to crush a water bottle like nothing. So now you're just telling me that was by design. Thanks. I feel like a wimp now.
What's more annoying? Okay, we'll stick to that. Okay, it was obviously my grip strength is getting stronger
Yeah,
as my
obviously.
training progress. I bought a heavier mouse.
There you
That's
go.
what
Yeah, my click power is amazing. My index
Exactly.
finger can click like nobody's business. As time progresses, obviously you're a fan of AI, and I think as a trader, this is a question we get all the time: is do you think trading is going to be replaced by AI? And I think absolutely not. I would say 100% not going to happen. There's always be a spot for us out there. But there are other market segments that I think offer tremendous AI opportunity. And I know this is not the market bottom piece here, but from your perspective, what would you say are some of your top, aside from Tesla, what would you say are some of your top AI plays that you look at that business model, that product, and you say, they may be struggling now, but that one's got the most potential, and I'm looking at it. What do you like?
The big ones, Meta and Nvidia for sure.
Nvidia's the selling the picks and shovels, so I think we'd all agree Nvidia's just you gotta have it.
Amazon, I think, is a sleeper.
I was trying to sell puts on it today, and I decided.
I don't know if there's not a huge line at Amazon's door right now. Like everyone still refers to Amazon as the online Best Buy. If I ask somebody, hey, what do they think about Amazon? It's not their cloud source. It's not their AI. It's not. They have self-driving vehicles. People don't even know that. Like there's a lot of AI stuff that Amazon has that I don't know if I'm decided if do they just is that just the route every company's gonna have to go to either adapt, evolve, or get out, or are they gonna be one that just wakes up all of a sudden and everyone's like, oh, they're an AI play and just absolutely sends it.
Mm-hmm. And
So
I think they'll be making more purchases in that area as well, right? Making some acquisitions along the way to bolster their brand. But I've mentioned to my guys, I mean, I love Tesla's 5-10 year plan, but I don't think there's a point in time where you can go wrong owning Amazon because it's not disappearing. Unless Bezos keeps spending, $50 million to get 90 minutes away from his wife with a rocket launch, or his girlfriend. I don't know if you saw that today, the little rocket launch with the...
I saw the article where he face planted when he
I
got
saw that too. I mean, I know you're excited and all, but I mean that's one of those ones that you look at what Musk is doing, which is, hey, I'm sending up Starlinks, I'm sending up cargo loads for other companies, I'm earning on this one, and Bezos is like, gee, I'm gonna do a little rocket ride into space for 90 minutes and cost $50 million for literally no purpose whatsoever other than publicity. So I'm like. That doesn't make me feel comfortable with Jeff Bezos personally from a rocket perspective. But hey, Amazon as a business, I'll tell you what, I'm addicted. Like I don't have addiction to really anything except I'm addicted to Amazon.
It's not space though. He's just really high up.
Yeah,
He's like at the
right.
top of Class D airspace.
Yeah.
Like airspace, maybe you could call it, but it's not actual space. I watched gosh, who's the guy? Neil deGrasse. Yeah.
Tyson, yeah, he's great.
Yeah. He was breaking down just where Bezos actually was, and you're like, oh, it's not that high at all,
Yeah.
actually. Like in comparison to other things. But what's funny is I actually just used Bezos in an argument about AI because someone said, like, they're not gonna let AI take over because how would people buy stuff? How would people do this or that? And like it's all about humanity, and like you don't want to have all robots in there because who are you going to say good afternoon to when you get in there? And for anyone who has that argument, you're coming from a place of morals and not a clipboard. Where as a CEO, you have a fiduciary responsibility to take care of your shareholders. And one, you don't have the argument for why do we still have all these humans in here taking 15 smoke breaks
Yeah.
when we could have just a batch of robots do 3 times the work, in a
Agreed.
day.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if they actually cared that much about it, Bezos would take this much off of his bonus, and every employee at Amazon could make base. I mean, I could walk into Amazon right now and make 150,000 if that were really what people cared about. Like it would be easy
Yeah.
because Amazon makes so much money, they wouldn't have to think twice. I could just have one arm. I could have one leg and just hobble along and make 150 grand at Amazon.
Wait, you don't
Like
you don't hobble along with one arm, one leg, and make 150 grand?
oh, I do that. Yeah. Well, I have a different job.
I've noticed we have not seen your arms here yet, or your legs.
But it's crazy thinking about all these manufacturers are just switching to robots and bringing it back to Tesla. If you're not in a robot play on the thing that's about to change the
Everything.
earth,
Yeah.
yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think probably in the next there probably is something that's basic, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say within the next few months we'll have a pretty robust ETF market of robotic ETFs that are going to kind of have this basket because it's tough to pick the definite winner. And in my mind, I think Tesla's a definite winner. Obviously, from the AI perspective, yeah, Nvidia is definitely there. But do we look at Intuitive Surgical? Do you go into Palantir from the AI stuff? All those plays can be somewhat speculative, and I think there's going to be more robotics companies popping up, which is great because that's competition, and that brings down the cost of each of these robots. And I'll tell you, Don and I are probably going to have to, be in a combat fight here to see who gets the robot first, because I know he wants one, and I'm dying for one. I want one.
I'll just rob you. It's fine.
Which one you want?
I said I'll just rob you.
Rob
It's
you.
fine.
No, because my robot will be armed. Go
Think I'm
ahead.
coming there with my with nothing? Like no. First of all, I'll dismantle that robot. And I'll put it back together at my place.
That would be interesting. I don't know about that. All right.
Listen, if you've ever seen the power of a 50 caliber, then
You got to get close enough to use it.
fine.
Don will have some dire wolves. Oh, that isn't okay. What could possibly go wrong with that? I love the headline, and honestly, those dire wolves have got to be the cutest things ever, and I want one. But what could possibly have we not learned anything from Jurassic Park? I mean, come on.
See, that's the thing. One, I used to have a timber wolf.
Okay.
Not a husky, a real timber wolf, but now they're illegal, so we had to give it to a place that has them. It's like a giant zoo. But you know what I really want, and I will pay any amount of money for this. First of all, a dragon. But if I can't have a dragon, I will settle for one of those little chicken-sized velociraptors that I think was in the third Jurassic Park.
Yeah. The mini ones. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could have that, I don't need 100 of them. I just need one or two. Like, give me that, and then we stop messing with the dinosaurs. Like, maybe we don't make the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like that movie didn't pan out to be right. And like they always made bigger ones. Let's just make some cool, fun ones. We ship them out, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was a big fan of Game of Thrones, and if you end up with a dragon, I'll bend the knee and I'll call you Donarius, the father of dragons.
I've always liked dragons. Like the only reason I don't have a tattoo right now is because it would be of a dragon, and I have to explain as an adult why I have a dragon tattoo on me somewhere. But other than that, like I there's no amount of money I wouldn't pay to have a little, like even a chicken-sized dragon, just a bat and a lizard for me, and then make it fly around. That's all I need.
You think I don't like dragons? I mean, you know what my name is, man. Like if it's medieval, I'm a fan. Dragons and sorcery and all that stuff. I mean, I'm about to put a sword in my backyard and see if I can, have a little mechanism to release it. That'd be pretty awesome.
That's what you should do with the bots. Just concrete the sword in your backyard, and then go buy a figure robot and an Optimus, and say the one that pulls the sword out gets to stay at the house.
Have you ever seen the one at Disneyland? It has like it has like a little remote control because there's like a pin that goes through it or something holds it in place. And so when King Arthur rolls up there, and you can actually take the sword out of the stone, but everybody else tries to pull it and it never happens. It's pretty good.
How thick is this pin?
I don't know. I've never pulled it out. Obviously, my grip strength from the water bottles isn't what it used to be.
Well, I'm gonna figure this man out.
Well,
Do I get to keep
there's
it
also
if I
the
break this
Thor
pin?
the Thor hammer. Some guy did a really cool video where he created a Thor hammer, and it has an electromagnet on the ground, and everyone tries to pick it up, but they can't, and he just turns off the magnet, and he can lift it real easy. So it's all magic.
I didn't know how he did it. I assumed magnets, but
It is
I'm
magnets.
I'm I'm stubborn enough that I think I could probably either die or like it's either 12 hernias or I pick up that hammer. Like
I'll watch.
that,
I don't need the pain. Before we wrap
that's
up here, there's a question came in from Rivers, and I haven't asked you about crypto today. He says, your thoughts on Mara as it's a Bitcoin play looking at $10. So I guess let me get your take on what's going on with crypto, because it's been underperforming significantly, and then your take on miners around that.
So I became a big fan of Mara when they, one, don't have to sell Bitcoin anymore to pay their bills, but two, they diversified into data centers. So Mara is no longer just a Bitcoin miner for me. And I'm actually a big fan of Mara right now. Uh, yeah, right now it's the price, the chart. I don't really have a sales pitch for
The
that
chart
chart.
ain't pretty, but it is.
But I mean, what I used to say, and I still think is there. I don't think it's fully evolved into data centers just pulling money from every direction.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying the MicroStrategy play where they sell the debt and they buy Bitcoin with it. All of that's helping. It costs them $46,000 to mine a Bitcoin. And we're looking at Bitcoin right now. It's $84,000. Like you're still doubling your money
Yeah.
almost. Like everything's sitting fine on that. But I used to call them Bitcoin hype plays because Bitcoin could go up and the miners still go down.
Yep.
But when Bitcoin has that hype, the miners make up for lost time real quick. They start to really surge. I think you kick off one more of those and another good earnings with Mara, and Mara sees the back into the 20s, $30 mark again. So it's a very speculative play. But if you're in my group, I have Mara. I don't have any sold calls on it right now, but I like it.
So you like Mara? So not a fan of Riot because the lack of data center activity?
Yeah, actually, Riot used to be my favorite out of the two. Just slowly evolved into Mara. I think Mara just performs better and just does better in general.
And what's your take on Sailor and MicroStrategy? Are you comfortable with MicroStrategy? I know I have my questions and concerns on it.
I think that's a ticking time bomb. I think if you're in that, you're playing hot potato, and that thing might already be just beat red.
Yep.
I guess I liked what he was doing, but the fact that everyone can tell you it's a software company, they don't know what software it does. All they know is they're buying it because they got Bitcoin on the balance sheet.
That's it.
And that's it. So I don't necessarily know if I think what they're doing, I think, is a good add-on to we have this core company. Here's what we are also doing. Not we have so much Bitcoin. Who cares what our employees are doing or anything about that? Let's just focus on Bitcoin. I don't think that's how the company should be ran. And if you look at it, it wasn't too long ago that it was at what? So okay, so I got back. If you want to pull up on yours, so going back to 2021, where it first hit, what was it, 70,000
Yep.
Bitcoin? MicroStrategy hit $132, and then Bitcoin sold all the way off. And MicroStrategy was down to $15, and the only thing Bitcoin did this time was go to 100,000 instead of 70, and it jumped to $543.
Yeah.
And it's still hanging on. It's like they just haven't let the air out of the balloon yet. So the premium is there. I get the attraction to the trade, but this is not one I would have in my investment account. I like everything about these properties. I like for Mara. Mara is a Bitcoin miner. It makes sense for Mara to do it. For MicroStrategy, it's just a CEO Bitcoin fanboy that's somehow has manipulated it into the balance sheet. But I don't know if that would not meet the criteria for me to invest in it.
Yeah, it's the sheer percentage of Bitcoin that he holds of the total. Mara doesn't have anywhere near it, neither does Riot or Hut 8. So, that's the draw. It's this leverage play. And I agree with you. I think as an investment thing, I think MicroStrategy is very dangerous. I'm full disclosure, I have a pretty large position in MicroStrategy, but it's to sell weekly premium on the options, which is phenomenal. But you're right, it's that will you be left holding the bag? And I have different concerns on it. My concern is that I think it's a house of cards. I think that Michael Saylor I think that what's happening is the places where he keeps his crypto, or keeps it, I'm using quotations, you can't see my sarcasm here, which is Coinbase and Fidelity. I think they're doing fractional reserve lending. I think that they're not actually buying these 10,000 Bitcoin for him at the market. They're literally moving it as a ledger entry amongst their accounts at Coinbase and Binance or whomever he's got it at. And to me, that's the problem, right? That's the big house of cards that, if you don't actually own it, how do you maintain this value? So yeah, to me, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, and that's exactly because I get suckered into it too. I know they're here. Lisa, Lori, they sell puts on it, and they're killing it on there. So like I have these waves where I go in and I'll sell puts, or I'll just buy some shares and sell calls against it because it's awesome. If I can time it right, I'm not afraid to trade it. But yeah, I am nervous about just that elephant in the room of when does this become a double-edged sword, and it just deflates and it just pops. Because I think there will come a time where it's not just a red candle, it's everyone scattering like cockroaches, and you better take what you can get while you still can.
Yeah. And you also have his liquidation price. If it does drop below certain valuations, he does have debt obligations, or MicroStrategy has debt obligations that it says in the prospectus that you may be required to sell some of that to cover those debt obligations. And if that does happen, then he's forcing the exchanges where he holds it to pull actual Bitcoin off and sell that on the open market. That could be a big sell-off. So if you are in MicroStrategy, be careful. I think the downside is dangerous, but the premium right now is unbelievably good. It's just don't put all your eggs in that basket.
It's the high stakes table for sure.
It definitely is. And there's a lot of other things out there that give you that kind of premium. Just I'm actually more bullish on Bitcoin over the next 8 months, so I'm okay with that because I think if Bitcoin continues to move up, MicroStrategy will be okay. It's when Bitcoin has its big sell-off, and the tide goes out and the emperor is not wearing any clothes, in this case the emperor being Michael Saylor, then I think we could be in real trouble. So if we get that rally that I've been thinking about, everybody, and I think we're getting to 250 on Bitcoin this year, if we get there, do not be holding MicroStrategy at that point in time.
Yeah, it'll be a beached whale as far as that goes.
We just had one in California. It was pretty crazy.
Did you really?
Yeah. We had I forget how long it was, but we had a gray whale was washed up right up Huntington Beach, right down the street.
How does it even happen?
It died somehow. They don't know what caused it to die.
Probably the fact that it needed water, didn't have it anymore.
It's pollution water. It's all polluted water. I'm going to wrap this up. I know we went long here, and I get tons of people asking more and more stuff, but I got to wrap up here before we get to our 1 hour our time frame. Let's see. I'll drive them over to your YouTube channel, which is the Don Franz Show, and it's going to play a little. There you go. You guys can check out Don over there. He's got his daily content. He's got paid content, all kinds of content over there. And at some point in the near future, guys, I'll be probably on Don's show if he decides to do a random show at a weird hour that doesn't intervene with his trading.
No, let's do it. You free this week?
I'm free. I'm free this week. I mean, what time you want to do it at?
Do you want to do it during your show or after your show?
Wait, no, after my show. I have to keep my time consistent here. I get grief if I don't. Friday, it's Good Friday. Markets are closed. We don't want to do Friday.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. We'll do Friday after your show. No,
markets are closed. I won't do. I'm not doing a show Friday. Markets are closed. I don't do a show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and I have the same rule. I forgot about that.
Yeah, market's closed. I'm not doing a show. So Friday's off. We're all going to be out enjoying Good Friday.
Thursday?
Sounds great. Let's do it Thursday.
Thursday after your show, you'll come over here to mine.
Perfect. Sounds great. You want to do like a 3 o'clock just so I can all end mine like 5 minutes early, just jump on over?
Yeah, 3 o'clock. That's not normal person time.
So you're 2 hours ahead of me, so 5 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Guys, we'll be on Don's. There we go. Right after this, we'll do a show over at on Don's channel. It'll be fun. All right, Thursday. Sounds good, my friend. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. May all your trades be green. I hope that Tesla one works out for you. And when I'm on your show, I'll share all my trades with you as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
No problem, man. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too. Guys, that was Don Franz. You can follow him on the Don Franz channel. He gets over there on YouTube. Always good stuff, good content. Like minds there with Don and myself, kind of thinking of AI and opportunity. We trade very differently. He is far more detailed with regards to options, and he's out there looking at Vega and Theta and Delta and Gamma and Rho. I don't care for all that stuff. It's just, I don't know, too much to confuse me. So anyway, that was Don Franz. Is the market crash over? I think from the general consensus there, the big down pain points, yes. but I think he alluded to drifting lower as we start to see the tariff fallout and what that might look like going forward. So not a huge down for him, but slowly drifting lower, look like the prognosis. Now, let me dive into what's happening from the macroeconomic perspective and your earnings calendar for mañana. We had Goldman Sachs report earnings, but I will dive into Tuesday's economic calendar here. You have Canada here with a bunch of CPI numbers. For the U.S., though, it's pretty boring. We just have our Empire State Manufacturing Index and import prices. That honestly is pretty much it for the U.S. markets. Now, let me go and bring up your earnings calendar because that is exciting. Well, we can look at today's earnings and then talk about tomorrow's because Goldman Sachs and M&T Bank reported earnings. Goldman made earnings, beat it handily, was up 1.93% today, but M&T Bank missed just a little bit by 3 cents and was still up on the day. Tomorrow, what do we get? Well, we get more banks. We get Bank of America, Bank of America, Citigroup. You have PNC Financial. You also have JB Hunt Transportation. You have, again, Johnson & Johnson, United Airlines. So that's your earnings calendar for mañana. As far as show for tomorrow, I have a couple questions that came in from viewers. If you are new to this program, hit that subscribe or like button, and I will, I do the show pretty much every day at 2 p.m. unless I have a technical problem like I did on Friday or markets are closed like this upcoming Friday. If there's something you want me to cover, you can always email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com. That's the email on the screen there. Or comment down below any of our YouTube videos. I usually go through and put all those comments into the slides here and answer those. So I've got a couple good ideas for tomorrow. I'll let you guys know what's happening Wednesday as well. I'm going to have John Rowland, who's a former NYMEX commodities trader. He is from Bar Chart right now and does a ton of educational content for them. We'll have John Rowland on the show on Wednesday. And then, of course, I'll go on to Don Fran's show right after this on Thursday. So it should be a fun, exciting week. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a fantastic remainder of your day. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.